What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're reviewing this beautiful 2018 Alfa Romeo Stelvio Sport. This was lent to me by a good friend of mine, and today we're going to be reviewing this beautiful SUV and telling you what it's all about. So this is the Sport model, so we do have a few additional things that are going to be optioned onto it, like these 5-hole designed rims. We also get the gloss red brake calipers. We're riding on 235 Pirelli section tires all around. We have gloss black window surround with a black trim. And of course, it's painted in a beautiful Rosso Alpha color. I mean, this car is truly stunning for an SUV. And I think it's one of the best looking cars in its segment. Take a quick look around. As you can see, Q4, meaning that it's all-wheel drive. Nice exhaust tips. It is raining today, so kind of forgive me for the crappy visuals here. If I'm making this quick, it's because I don't want the camera to get wet. But let's take a look at the inside. So if we walk around and we get in the Stelvio. All right, so we are inside the Stelvio. As you can see, very unique designed interior. We have a beautiful leather-wrapped steering wheel here. It's really nice to touch, good touch points. We have ginormous paddle shifters. I don't know if you guys can see that there, but beautiful paddle shifters. It's very elegant, minimalistically designed. We have nice leather touch points. And yeah, it's a really nice place to be. So let's fire it up. All right, and let's tell you guys what we're working with in this Stelvio. So under the hood, we have a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that produces about 280 horsepower. And coupled to that is a ZF 8-speed transmission. So that means that this car is good for a 0 to 60 in around 5.5 seconds and a top speed of just over 150 miles an hour. It's pretty impressive for a segment. It actually has, it's the leading in horsepower for its segment. And it's up there in torque. It's got about 306 pound-feet of torque. So it's a very special engine and drivetrain combination. And we will take it for a drive and see how that translates to the road. So yeah, Alfa has spent a while designing this. This is the pre-facelift model. So as you can see, it's very familiar. If you've watched my Giulia video, a lot of the touch gear, switch gear and stuff is pretty much the same in here. But it all feels pretty premium. And yeah, it comes in at a pretty reasonable price. We paid, let's see, I think the owner paid just under $30,000 for this car used for a 2018. So not too bad at all. You're definitely getting a bargain for a car that looks this good and drives this good. So let's get out on the road and see how she drives. All right, so driving the Stelvio. Immediately getting this car on the road, you can tell that it is a very comfortable and smooth ride, just like the Giulia and just like pretty much any other Alfa Romeo product. This car's suspension is a bit on the firm side just because it wants to be a sport car, and it does that very well. However, that doesn't mean that this car is uncomfortable. I'm still very comfortable riding in here. The suspension and the tire setup means that I'm still getting good grip and I'm getting good feedback from the road and the tires and the wheel, yet I'm not getting jolted around or jostled in my seat because of the bumps in the road. It's still gonna weed them out, but yet you're still gonna have a pretty sporty and performance oriented drive. So starting with the normal mode here, that's what we're in. Alfa has 3 different drive modes. They call it their DNA selector. D standing for dynamic, N standing for natural or kind of normal mode, and A standing for advanced efficiency or all-weather, depending on how you look at it. So we're gonna start in the normal mode here, and engine and transmission response, as you would expect, is pretty dulled, pretty subdued. Engine is super quiet and refined. You can tell there's not too much noise in this cabin apart from the rain. Unfortunately, New York, there's not too many nice days, so had to review this car in the rain, but I digress. Engine, very comfortable. It's not going to jolt you in your seat. You get good transmission response as well. If you put your foot down in this mode, it will kind of wake up. But if you're just cruising around town, this is the mode you want to be in. You have ample power for passing. And it's very comfortable still. The transmission will shift up, kind of just work away in the background, and you won't even notice that anything's really going on. Brake pedal feels good. It's a little strange to get used to. Alfa does have these kind of electronic brakes, and they're tuned in a way that can be a little funny to get used to at first, just because they kind of bite later on, and then they kind of bite very hard when they finally do start to slow you down. But it's something you can get used to after driving this car for a few weeks. So nothing to worry about there. They do have good stopping power. Obviously, these brakes and those caliper setup are very good. This car is only about 4,000 pounds, so it's pretty light, which means these brakes clamp down really well and slow this car down pretty fast, which is actually pretty impressive. So definitely good brakes and drivetrain setup on this Stelvio. And yeah, just cruising here. We're at almost 50 miles an hour, and it's very comfortable, super quiet. The cabin is pretty well insulated. Actually, in the newer models, the 2020 Plus Stelvios, there was a facelift kind of update. They changed a few console things and, center stack, and they actually made the window glass dual pane, so it's even more insulated if you go for the newer Stelvios. However, I do think that in the newer ones you kind of miss out a little bit on the exhaust note, which is kind of quiet in this Stelvio for being a kind of performance SUV. I would wish it was a little bit louder. However, when you really get on it, you do kind of hear a lot of exhaust note, and you get a good intake and induction noise from that turbo too, which means this car actually has one of the better sounding 4-cylinder engines I've heard. A lot of the Germans kind of sound the same, a little bit whiny, but this is a really good toned 4-cylinder engine, and you'll hear it more later on when we kind of start pressing on this vehicle a little bit. But yeah, it's very comfortable place to be in. I mean, there's ample space in the back, big trunk. You could easily take this car on a road trip, or take your kids to school in this, or daily drive this to work and have no issues really. Everything's pretty intuitive. You have nice gauges in front of you. This infotainment screen, while not touchscreen, that was kind of fixed in the later facelifted models, it's still very intuitive to use. You can see, car info pages and everything you want to do right through these rotary dials. You have a physical volume control, you have physical climate controls. Everything makes sense in this Stelvio, and it's really simple to use, and it's really enjoyable to use. You get heated seats in this Stelvio Sport as well, and a heated steering wheel, which is really good. It gets really hot in the winter, so that's really good. You also have a beautiful panoramic sunroof. Just have it closed right now for purposes not hearing the rain as much, but it goes all the way to the back, and it gives you a lot of sunlight in this cabin. Just there's nice touches in this car that I think set it apart from its competitors a lot. It's just a very comfortable place to be, and it feels very premium and unique. It's something different. It's not cut and dry or cookie cutter like most of its competitors can be. And while we're stopped at this light, I just want to take a minute to talk about Alfa Romeo, like build quality and reliability. So personally, I have owned a Giulia for about 2 years now, and this owner has also owned his vehicle for, I think, going on 2, maybe 3 years, and we've had no issues with these Alfa Romeos. They've been really good to us. This Alfa has almost 50,000 miles on it, and all he's done is kept up with standard maintenance, and the car's treated him really, really well. I know it's kind of a common misconception that Alfas are super unreliable and they'll break down and the build quality is really terrible, but let me tell you, the fit and finish inside this cabin is really really premium, and as long as you take care of these cars and you keep up on maintenance, and you just change the oil, rotate tires, simple stuff like that, these cars are really, really reliable and really good. You get great gas mileage on the highway. Earlier I was averaging over 30 miles to gallon. I can't think of a better package, and the fact that a lot of people kind of dog Alfa Romeo out for being unreliable and just kind of being Chrysler, spin-offs, is a little bit sad to me because these cars are so much more than that. All right, but enough talk. Let's throw this into dynamic mode. And we are in automatic, and we'll give it a little gas and see what the Stelvio is really all about. And as you can see, the pickup is really great. There's not a lot of lag for being a turbocharged car. Now, is it instantaneous? Of course not. I mean, it is still a turbocharged 4-cylinder. However, this thing picks up really well, and when it does get on boost, there's so much power to play with. I know 280 only seems, like a small figure, but in a car that's light like this, it's really impressive how well this car shoots off the line. And it's really fun. I mean, that was pretty good. As you can see, in dynamic mode, the transmission is going to hold on to those gears, so you really get, it revs out, and the more you put your foot into it, the more rewarding it is, because it builds up the boost, it builds up this power, and it sends you back in your seat more than you're expecting for just an SUV. It really is truly like a fun car to drive. But I think the star of the show here is the chassis on this Alfa Romeo. The Giorgio platform in the Stelvios and the Giulias are unmatched by any platform. It's so incredibly neutral, and the feedback you get from the steering wheel and that razor sharp precision and fastness that you get from the steering rack, I mean, it's a very, very tight steering ratio. It's only 1.5 turns to lock, so you get a really small kind of steering angle, means you get a good amount of input and output from the steering wheel. So you kind of just turn it the slightest bit and this car goes exactly where you want it to. And then you couple that with this peppy engine and a fast shifting transmission and an intelligent all-wheel drive system that will give you a rear-wheel drive sporty feel, but yet you're never concerned you're losing traction. You couple all of that together and you have something of a sports car in an SUV. It's impressive how much this car drives like a car. It's a big, tall SUV, can sit 5 people, can fill up the trunk, and yet it drives and handles better than like 50-60% of the sports cars that are on the market. And it's an SUV. It's impeccable to me that Alfa Romeo have managed to make this car so fun to drive and so sedan and car-like. It's just amazing. Let's test this out and see how she'll do again. I mean, I don't know how to say it better. This car just pulls and pulls and pulls. It feels like the power is never going to run out. Even up to 100 miles an hour per se, this car feels powerful, and it feels like it wants to keep pulling and pulling and pulling. It's really fun to drive. There's no replacing the Italian charm that these cars bring to the table. You're not going to find another SUV that drives or feels as good to drive as this one does. If we test out the manual mode, you can pop this gear lever over to the left, and I love that Alfa maintains the proper shift pattern. It's towards you to upshift and away from you to downshift. That's how it should be, unlike the Germans that try to mix it up. But you can use this gear lever here, or you can pull on these beautiful aluminum column-mounted paddle shifters, and they feel amazing to pull. The actuation is just incredible. And they're ginormous, so they stay in place as you're shifting, which means you always know where they are. All right, let's test these beautiful paddle shifters in manual. Yeah, I mean, it feels great to drive in manual mode. It's very connected to the driver. These paddles have great response in manual, even the gear lever, it doesn't matter what you're using. The response out of the transmission is superb in manual mode. If I just pull the paddles, I mean, these shifts are pretty much instantaneous from this torque converter. ZF transmission, it's known, it's loved by many, and I see why, because especially in this Alfa Romeo, I think Alfa has tuned it perfectly, because it's comfortable around town, but then I can do this with it too. And have an absolute blast shifting it. Power, I mean, of course it feels great. This car is so torquey from low down that you punch it and it takes off. And it feels so good to hustle around these corners. I mean, again, I can't show you and demonstrate enough on public roads how great the steering is. It's a car that you'd want to take to the track, actually. That's how fun it is to drive around a corner. And you know what? It actually, as quiet as it is, it sounds really good when you get it up in the rev range and you're kind of pushing on it. It does have that great tone. Definitely can tell it's an Italian tuned exhaust, because I'm sorry, I think Italy does it best in this segment. There's no other car that I'd rather be driving, no other sedan or SUV that I'd rather be driving than the Stelvio or the Giulia, I have to say. There's just a certain character about this car. Let's pop it back into automatic. You just can't put your finger on it. It's fun to drive. It looks good. It feels great. It's economical. You can fit people in it. You can go anywhere with it. And it just does it all. It's the car that does it all. If you can only buy one car, this is the car I would buy. Compared to its competitors, looking at Macan, X3, a GLC, maybe a Q5 even. And those are all great cars, don't get me wrong. They all do a great job, and on paper they look good. You know, their performance stats are right there with it. However, this Alfa just does it better. I think that's going to be it, guys. Let me know what you think of this beautiful Alfa Romeo Stelvio. I had a blast driving this car. If you haven't gotten the chance to get behind the wheel of an Alfa Romeo, you definitely should. It might change your mind on how you see some car manufacturers for sure. But if you did like the video, please leave a like. Comment what you think of this Alfa. Would you rather go for one of the Germans? Let me know. And also, if you like my channel, check out my other videos and consider subscribing. So that's going to be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.